So one of the things I really like doing in my free time is actually reading the Wall Street Journal. And when you read the Wall Street Journal, they probably have some independent, people that write stuff for them. And so I came to this little thing right here where it said that the economy is actually doing fantastic, even though, with all these layoffs and stuff like that, that there shouldn't be any issue that there's no recession and nothing else. So I read it and I was like, how do you even come up with crazy stuff like that? And so in one of the paragraphs, it said, yet unemployment remains low by historic standards and has little signs of making a big jump. The unemployment rate has been at or below 4% for 30 months. And now here comes the kicker. Here comes the absolute kicker. Something most working age Americans have never experienced. So I'm like, okay, you're saying that it's been as low as never. Then I scroll off of it and I see news like this where California is experiencing 5.4% unemployment. So, okay, I've seen all these layoffs in my other videos where so many people got laid off and, are struggling to find jobs. And now I'm looking at it like, okay, so there must be something that I'm missing because I do not see the economy's doing great. I don't see it at all. I think we're in an economy almost like 2008 because there is just so many layoffs. And I bet you if you ask your friend circles, people will say, I know somebody that got laid off. And it's funny when you read that article, it said that there was a jump in, payroll, right? So that brings me to Elon Musk, right? That he's trying to get, his money back from Tesla shares and all that. And I was like, so he must probably not be the only one that wants a pay bump because profits are up, And so if you're a C-suite executive, you're like, hey, my company or the company that I work for just made so much more money that entitles me now to a bigger pay package, right? And so when you lay people off, you make your company more lean, more mean, right? What they say, that actually means that you then get a bigger pay bump because you come in and you put that on your resume that you saved the company, $5-6 million in payroll, you increase profitability, and that deserves a raise. That deserves a bigger bonus. So now I'm looking at it like, okay, you did that. Good for you for laying off all these people and, getting a pay jump. But what does that mean for all these common folks, Americans, all these people that live right here in Santa Cruz or in Las Vegas, right? That means it is now even more difficult for them to make a living because these C-suite executives had to hand in a cookie jar and took way too many cookies out, right? But it's interesting who and when you ask people. So when you ask people in Santa Cruz, is the economy doing great? Depending on who you ask, they say, oh, it's never been better. And when you ask other working people, when you ask people from my extended family in Santa Cruz that are semi-retired, say, oh, the economy's doing better than ever. And when I see, with my other friends, all of those people got laid off. And they're like, oh, I can't find another job. And I'm not making any money. So it's the younger people that are struggling and not finding a job. And the older people that are more senior and have experience and have a side gig as, they're working at a college, they're working at a high school, doing something on the side, or working for the government. Those people say, oh, the economy's doing great. Yeah, that's because you are not affected. You're not affected by the tide. If you have a government job, you are not included in how good the economy's doing because you will get a paycheck most of the time, regardless of how the economy's doing. Only if there's a government shutdown, then you get deferred payment, right? But besides that, you're doing great. And I talked also in my other videos about stuff like this where they're just saying, no, we're doing great. But all these layoffs are slowly trickling in. And 2024 is gonna be at the end of this. I think after the election, the whole thing just needs to come to the music just gotta stop. And I don't think there's any chairs for a lot of people, and they're just gonna be, yeah, out. They're just gonna be done. And I read a lot of reports lately that also said that in Florida and states where these people retire, retirees are actually forced back into the labor market because their homeowners insurance went up, um, their taxes went up, and they cannot sustain their living, so they got to go back to work. And I think that is so sad to see that so many people have to go back to work, that partially retired out, and yeah, yeah, gotta go back into it and do something, because I feel like once you get the taste of retirement, you're pretty much done, right? You just want to live your life and be done with it. And yeah, there might be a small amount of group that, that's like, I don't know what to do in my spare time, so let me just pick up another job to do something. And I'm not talking about these people. I'm talking about these people that have no other option than actually get another job because their house payment went up, the rent went up, their HOA went up, and it's most likely due to inflation and all these super, super greedy companies that keep jacking shit up and actually outsourcing it to other countries. And then they're like, inflation's really hitting us, so let's increase prices so we can make more money. And then you're like, oh, why are we doing that to ourselves? We need to figure out a fine balance of what needs to be manufactured here and what kind of jobs need to stay and what's going to go overseas. Because when you look at it from an economic point of perspective, right? So you're looking at gas station owners, 7-Eleven franchise people, and all that. They depend on people having money, eating there, spending their money. And before I started my YouTube channel, I always thought that outsourcing was such a genius idea. I thought like, hey, outsource, you increase your profit margins, and you're doing really, really well. And then, you make more money and, you do other stuff with it. But what you gotta remember is that when you outsource, you're basically feeding somebody else's, families, and and that is not something bad, but it's not helping your fellow neighbors out. It's not helping your community out, and it is not upbringing your area. It is taking something and giving it to a whole nother place. And that is all right. But when you're in dire needs like we are right now, where jobs are just disappearing, and since January, like 75,000 jobs have gone, and then they're like, oh, that is not a that's not too bad. They created 190,000 just last month. Well, I would love to see that. Then there wouldn't have been every severance. You didn't need any severance. You didn't need a whole bunch of things going on. You don't need severance or anything if you have the next job already lined up, right? So the company can give you severance and you don't need to file unemployment. And California's high unemployment wouldn't exist if all these people had opportunities already lined up. But that is not the case. We're not in a market where it's upwards trending. I personally believe we're in a downwards trending market. And you're like, you're doom and gloom. And I seen that in the comments of my other video. And so then I say to you, first of all, what field? Let me know what field you guys are in. So um, before you comment, like, hey, like I'm in the medical field, because I've had a bunch of people that commented on one of my videos saying they're in the IT field and they're worried about being let go. So when you go back on some of my videos that don't have too many views, you can actually see some of these people are really, really worried about being let go. And this one person had actually commented on a video that every morning that he wakes up, he checks his email to make sure that there's no HR meeting on there that he might be let go. So I'm just looking at it like, oh man, how stressful when you wake up, when you go to bed at night and you wake up and you open up your computer first thing in the morning to make sure that there's no 15-minute HR meeting there. And another person actually posted on the video, said that he or she or they, whatever, were worried that once they go to work, that their badge stops working. And I feel like, yeah, these unemployment numbers are bad, but the mental health concern of what kind of scars that's gonna leave, right? Because I feel like every layoff either like makes you or breaks you kind of deal. And when you get laid off for the first time, you kind of, you get this feeling of, am I not good enough? And I had that when I got laid off. I was like, oh man, did I do something wrong? Like what's going on? And you kind of look at why, and let me know in the comments below if that's how you guys feel or if I'm completely off with this. But you're like, oh man, why wasn't me and the other people? Oh, should I've done better? Should I done other things? And it's really not necessary to think like that, and you need to train your head to stop thinking like it. But it is what people, what goes through people's minds. And yeah, it's not pretty. And so when these Wall Street Journal articles come out and says, oh, there's recession's been canceled and unemployment is at a healthy level and all this stuff, that I'm looking at around, it's like, where Allie did a career coaching for a little while before she started her community. So she's like, hey, taking on people that couldn't find jobs. And it's like so hard for these people to find a job because they're not getting back to these recruiters. Some recruiters had LinkedIn posts saying that they've got 1,000 applications in matter of days. And the response rate of a recruiter was like 1%. And then they're like, we really don't like it to not respond, but we're so overwhelmed that we cannot handle everything. And I get that. But it's like, it takes the hiring out of like the humanity, like the human aspect out of hiring. And so I'm like, we got to change something. With all these layoffs, we need to come to terms that this is not the great economy that we thought it was. And writing articles like this is not helping. We need to tell people like, hey, you need to get your resume polished. You need to start networking. And if you do get laid off, then at least you already have your resume ready to go and you started networking. And I think some people are gonna get hit like really hard with it because they haven't job searched in a real competitive market. And I've heard about it and I've read about it from Allie that some people got their jobs in the Bay Area through referrals, through all that kind of other stuff. But now that's not the case because right now it's so competitive. So they'll pressure you on price. You got to do way more, you have to do way more in an interview than just show up. And so it is super competitive and the numbers do not match up. So what do you do about it? What do you do about all this? Well, the best thing that I would do is get your resume ready. Get your resume ready. Get your high interest credit card stuff paid off and stop going on vacation and spending like crazy and put a stop on unnecessary purchases, because this is not the time to spend money on unnecessary things. At least it's what I'm doing, without, being like, hey, this is going to give me a return, because it's just too risky. If something does go south, and I hate to see you guys struggle, because there has been an issue with layoffs or something, and these news articles are not helping. They're not. because it's just false hope, and be like, see, they wrote it. They're gonna be like, you're gonna be like, no, they wrote it. It must be believable. Well, then you believe that. I hope you're not one of them. I'd rather be prepared than sorry and have my resume and start networking than being laid off and not understanding what happened. So let me know if this is what you would do, and I will see you in the next one.